right. So we're really happy to have Becca Faust with us today, an alum of our department. So Becca, why don't you start by telling us, um, you know, your hometown, your degrees completed, and what you're doing right now.
Yep. So I'm originally from Missoula, Montana, and that's where I did my undergrad was the University of Montana. I got a bachelor's in computer science and one in math, so dual bachelors at the same time. And then right after finishing bachelor's, I went to Arizona for my PhD. And then in between, or the next step after that, I went to Virginia Tech for a postdoc, and now I'm at Tulane University in New Orleans as an assistant professor.
Great. So how did you end up choosing UACS?
Yeah. So at the end of my senior year, or like winter of my senior year of college, my job plans fell through. And so last minute, about January, was started looking at master's programs. Because I figured another couple years of grad school wouldn't hurt to, help me figure out what I want to do next. And so I had a kind of unusual path where I applied to a few master's programs, and then you called me and asked me if I want to do a PhD instead. And so I thought about that and then decided that that was probably where I was going eventually anyway. So I transitioned my application to PhD there and at one other school. And then ultimately, what I decided in Arizona was I visited, and there was just a really good department culture and sense of community. And everyone got along very well. And, Arizona puts on a nice visit because it's March and it's warm. And I came from Montana, so that also helped. But really, it was more about the feeling of the department and the culture that I saw on that visit. And it was different than kind of the way I hadn't visited the other university, but the communication conversation with who I'd be working with there felt a lot different than who I'd be working with at Arizona than with Carlos. And so that just felt a lot like a better, more comfortable fit. So that's why I went there.
I remember that phone call, in fact. And yes, we don't do our prospective visits in the middle of June.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Probably a good choice.
right, right. So, what did you enjoy most about your time here?
I mean, I liked being at Arizona a lot. I liked the department was very collegial. There was a lot of community working in a lab with my peers, and not even just in my lab, but like there was a really good grad student culture while I was there. Um, we had a lot of things going on up until the pandemic, of course. But um, so that it was a really good community and a good, I don't know, sense like or group of peers that I haven't quite gotten the same since leaving or since the pandemic, really. And so that was one of the things I liked the most was the environment was, I don't know, something that I looked for when looking for jobs was similarly like it's small enough that everyone knows each other and is like fairly close and friendly, but not so small that you can't be productive. And so that's kind of what I looked for moving on to jobs after Arizona. But
Great, great. So, what's your favorite memory from your time here?
so I thought of a couple, right? So one isn't actually like at Arizona, but it was from my PhD, and that was kind of the first time I gave a research talk at a conference. That was just a pretty big moment for like me and personal growth, and also just I don't know, one of those moments where you feel like you are where you're supposed to be. So that was like it was a big moment for me. So that was one of my, strongest memories. The other that I had thought about was I think in like the third year, we had started doing these grad lunches where once a week the grad students would book a conference room and we'd go sit together and eat lunch. And sometimes it was just me and my like two closest friends because we were the ones organizing them. But sometimes it'd be like eight or so of us from around the department that you wouldn't see every day. And those were super fun. We would talk about weird things, have random arguments about, I don't know, some crazy idea that Ian had or something. And they were always very interesting and funny. And that was just, again, that big sense of grad culture there that, I don't know, those were really stand out for me, having those every week. But
That's great. And that first talk you gave, that was at IEEE Viz, wasn't it?
it was, and that was also in Berlin. And so the first time out of the country, first time giving a talk at a conference, and it went super well too. It was
That's,
like a well-attended session because the best paper was the start of the session. And so
I
there were a lot
see.
of factors that built up to that moment, but it was also just, I don't know, I've never been more comfortable at that point having given a talk. Because that was not something I was like at all comfortable with. And so it's just a very, I don't know, kind of pivotal moment for me.
You debuted on the big stage. Theirs is
Yeah,
the top
for
conference,
real.
and in the session with the best paper means that a lot of people would have been there, like
Yep.
you said.
Yep.
Great. So tell us something about your current job.
So yeah, currently I'm an assistant professor at Tulane in New Orleans. I mean, I like being here a lot. One of the reasons I picked this department was because it was like smaller and very close community, but also very interdisciplinary, which is good because I do visualization research. And so you want to be able to connect with others, especially people outside of computer science. And so that was one of the reasons, like the big draws to university is it does have a huge emphasis on interdisciplinary work compared to others that I had looked at. Um, Oh, I'm not sure what to. I've got a couple grad students here now, a couple PhD students. I also work with a couple at Virginia Tech still from my postdoc. So that's been a new, exciting experience and much harder being on this side of it. I have a whole new respect for Carlos after doing all this because I think we're very similar in the end. But so yeah, so that's kind of I don't know. I'm not sure what kind of information you're looking for
No,
here, but
that's great. That's great. Um, and to the current PhD students here at UACS, what advice would you give them?
I mean, it shouldn't come as a big surprise, but and I've given this advice to a lot of grad students since leaving, is building up a strong support network of your peers within and outside of computer science. But um, there's a lot of like tips and tricks and like things I could tell you about doing research and PhD life, but really having that support network, people to vent to, people to take your mind off bad research days or, rejected papers is completely critical. Like it is, I don't know that I would have made it through without them. And so this is, kind of my go-to because it's not even like advice for PhD, but it's just it was what held me together, I guess, while going through PhD.
Yeah, really good advice. So finally, what's something about you that we might not know that's interesting?
See, I'm just not that interesting of a person. I mean, I've
Oh,
thought about
come
like hobbies
on.
and stuff. I'm pretty good at like crocheting and knitting. Like I've made a few pretty intricate things. I knitted John a scarf a few years ago that was like the ring from Lord of the Rings, and it was very hard, and I will never do it again. But so I don't know, that's a hobby that I'm pretty good at. We also, have like a couple hundred board games. I stole that hobby from one of my PhD classmates. Yeah, that one people probably know more than the knitting thing, but
All right, great. Well, Becca, thanks a lot for your time. Really interesting to hear about what you're doing. And thanks again.